A spy tries to clear his name after he's framed for killing members of his team. Listen as we chat about the other guys from U2, what secret agent should earn in a year, and sweating through a ski mask. Your mission, should you choose to accept it, is to find out if 1996's Mission Impossible stands the test of time.
Test of time, James and Alan have to say, do the movies you love still hold up today? James says gladiator with a glut, and Alan says as a father blah blah. It's the test of time, James and Alan have to say, do the movies you love still hold up today? Test of time, James and Alan have to say, do the movies you love still hold up today?
Hello everyone, it's James Brief, and joining me as always is my buddy, pal, and the director of this podcast, Alan Noah. Let's talk some Mission Impossible, Al.
Let's do it. Although, wait a second, I'm just gonna peel off my face and... Oh wait, no, it's still me. I'm still Alan Noah. I had a face of myself for some reason.
I thought I was going to peel off my face and I'd be you. And then you go, wait a second, you'd peel off your face. You'd be me. And then we realized that this is a podcast, more of an audio form, and that amazing visual stunt is meaningless to our listeners.
Right. I guess we could do a video podcast, but honestly, that seems like just too much work. And I'm not into doing that much work.
You know, it's funny. We're going to do the Mission Impossible first film today, and we're going to do the next film next week and the third film in 2 weeks. This is going to be, the 8th Mission Impossible that's coming out, right?
I think so, yeah.
Yeah, and it's amazing that this film has now come to define someone who already was defined as the biggest star in all of Hollywood.
Well, yeah, I mean, before Mission Impossible, Tom Cruise was in Rain Man and Born on the 4th of July and A Few Good Men. And, you know, he was doing serious dramatic acting. And after Mission Impossible became a hit, he really, really did lean more into action movies, even movies that aren't in the Mission Impossible franchise, you know, like Minority Report or War of the Worlds. And Mission Impossible, The Final Reckoning, it has the word final in the title, but also Tom Cruise has said that he doesn't want this to be the final Mission Impossible movie. He wants to keep making them. He was inspired by Harrison Ford doing Indiana Jones and the Dial of Destiny. He wants to keep making these kinds of movies forever and ever, as we saw with that Indiana Jones movie and Mission Impossible Dead Reckoning Part 1, which came out 2 years ago. Those weren't huge smash hits. I think people do tend to be a little more skeptical of an aging action star. Not that you can't be in those movies, but if you're still going to be punching and, you know, beating up guys a fraction of your age, at a certain point, audiences are going to say, I don't know. Is this realistic? Maybe have a younger hero step in.
That's certainly fair, but Tom Cruise has been doing these films consistently. So it's not like, you know, you kind of like bring him back. It's not really mentioned why IMF is having a 60-year-old agent when they could easily be having 30-year-old agents like, say, Ethan Hunt in the first film.
At what point is he too old to be hanging on a helicopter that's flying upside down through a canyon that's also underwater somehow? You know, like at a certain point, it's like, maybe don't.
I'll tell you the time for him to hang up is when the box office receipts stop coming in. Because like Liam Neeson showed us, people are actually perfectly fine with a 60-year-old action star if they like the film that the 60-year-old action star is in.
Yeah.
So if Dead Reckoning brings in the money, I think he's still going to do it.
It's The Final Reckoning. The last one was Dead Reckoning Part 1. This was supposed to be Dead Reckoning Part 2, but then they changed it to just The Final Reckoning.
Right. I mean, I think it's also interesting that this is a franchise that they've attempted to make kind of into a James Bond thing where maybe we're just going to pass the torch every few years.
Yeah, Jeremy Renner, right?
Yeah, exactly. The poor guy is, there's been 2 attempts by Jeremy Renner to carry on franchises. Of course, he was in that.
Bourne Bourne.
The Bourne Legacy. They literally called it the Bourne Legacy. Like, this is your new favorite actor, folks. But didn't work out there.
No. Have you seen all of the Mission Impossible movies? Is this a franchise you've kept up with over the years?
No, I've not seen all of them. I've seen, I think, 5 of them.
I had only ever seen the first movie, Mission Impossible. I remember vividly going to see the movie in the theater. My buddy Aaron Newman, who's been on the podcast before, I remember him driving to the movie theater and we were late. And so he had bought either the Mission Impossible soundtrack or maybe it was just the theme, but he had it on CD and we were blasting the theme song while speeding to the movie theater, as in like our Mission Impossible was getting to see Mission Impossible on time.
You know, it's interesting you say the Mission Impossible theme. That was a huge hit.
Oh, sure.
It's a fantastic update, in my opinion. But it is the only reason that I know the names of the other 2 people in U2. It was a little piece of trivia. It was like, oh, you know, U2 is doing the soundtrack.
No, it's not.
Nah, it's not The Edge or Bono. It's the other guys.
Right, real quick, what are their names?
It's Adam Clayton and Larry Mullen.
Oh, so close. Larry Mullen Jr. You know what? Nice. I'll give it to you. I was going to say you get half credit. You get full credit. All right, but let's talk about Mission Impossible, the first movie. So this movie stars Tom Cruise as Ethan Hunt, an agent of the Impossible Missions Force, or IMF. Hunt and his team are in Prague, tracking down a rogue spy who's planning to steal a list of every undercover agent in Europe. But the whole mission is a setup, and everyone on Hunt's team is seemingly killed, including Hunt's mentor, Jim Phelps. Since Hunt survives, he is presumed to be a mole and responsible for his teammates' deaths. Hunt discovers that the real mole is a man named Job, who promised to deliver the list to someone named Max. Since the stolen list was a decoy, Hunt offers to give Max the real one for $10 million and Job. Hunt teams up with Jim's wife Claire, the only other surviving member of his team, along with 2 other disavowed agents, Luther Stickle and Franz Krieger. After stealing the real list, Hunt discovers that Phelps was the real mole and that he was working with his wife Claire. Phelps kills Claire, Hunt kills Phelps and Krieger, who is also a bad guy, and Max is arrested before she can send the list of undercover agents to other bad guys. And with that, Hunt completes his Mission Impossible. I'm not going to ask you how this movie did in 1996. I remember it was a huge smash hit. The franchise is still going strong 29 years later. But I don't know. Give me some impressive numbers, James.
This film, it had an $80 million budget, and it opened on May 22nd, 1996. It opened huge. It opened with $45 million, 54 over the long Memorial Day weekend, and wound up with $180 million domestically, and it made $457 million worldwide. This is something of a nostalgia grab for, say, our parents' generation. They were making a lot of movies based on 50s and 60s and 70s TV shows. There were a couple hits. I mean, for every Brady Bunch and Addams Family, there were a ton of Car 54, Where Are You? The movie. Leave It to Beaver, the movie. Dennis the Menace, the movie.
The Fugitive was a huge hit. That was also based on an old TV show.
Yeah, the Fugitive was. Mostly these things were pretty bad.
Well, yeah, and the movie's cold open, it's not huge. It's not a big spectacle like you see in some of the James Bond movies. Now the James Bond movie cold opens are like 20 to 30 minutes of like intense action set pieces. In Mission Impossible, it's fairly tame. The big wow moment is when Hunt peels off his face. And I thought it looked fine. Not bad, not amazing. My jaw didn't hit the floor in either direction of, oh, it looks so great or, oh, it looks so terrible. I thought it looked fine. But I was wondering if, when I saw it in the theater in 96, if I was blown away, if I was like, whoa, that's so cool. Apparently, that is a thing from the old Mission Impossible TV show, where they would pull off their face and they were wearing a mask and it was really the agent and not the person who you thought it was. I do have to say, I hate that as a storytelling device. I think for a couple reasons. One is that it inevitably creates huge plot holes. Two, it takes me out of the movie that I'm watching or TV show. They did it a lot in Secret Invasion, the Marvel show from a year or two ago, because every time I'm watching the scenes, I'm thinking, is that really that guy? Maybe that guy isn't that guy, and that guy is some other guy. And so like I'm thinking about it in a way where I'm not just watching the movie and I'm entertained by what's happening. And the other thing that annoys me about it is it kills all stakes. All of your stakes are gone because if they kill somebody, they can always just say later, nope, it wasn't really that person. It was some other character wearing a mask. Ta-da! Right. So it's just a thing that annoys me.
By the 8th or so X-Men film, I just assumed any time there was exposition where a villain reveals the plot, oh, you're talking to Mystique, and they're going to reveal that it's Mystique in about 5 seconds.
Exactly. And the Skrulls in the Marvels / Secret Invasion, like, I get it, and I get why they brought it back from the TV show. I get that it was a cool effect, but the film's real opening sequence, not including the cold open, is this sting in Prague. I really like the moment where they're all just talking about it, about what they're going to do, and they're kind of complaining about the coffee, and they're saying that Phelps, the Jon Voight character, he gets to go on all the cushy missions, and they're kind of giving him a hard time, and you just see them as colleagues and friends who genuinely like each other. And I forgot the plot mechanics of the movie, but just knowing how movies work, I was like, oh, all of these good friends, they're all dead. This is like their happy little scene together, and then they're all going to be taken out. I forgot that Emilio Estevez is in this movie as one of the guys, and he was uncredited. I didn't see why he didn't get a credit. That, I think, is weird. Like, he would have gotten residuals and more money, I assume. Yeah. Whatever. The sequence, though, where they are all killed, it's a pretty long sequence. And the way that Hunt calls in to his boss at IMF, Kittredge, and tells them that his team is dead is, I think, a little funny in just the way he's overacting. Like, it's not funny. All of his friends were killed. But the way he's just like, my team is dead. Do you hear me? They're dead! They're dead, Kittredge! They're dead! Help me, they're dead!
That's like a famous Tom Cruise line. I don't think it's necessarily bad, but I think it's very, very Tom Cruise-y. You know, I did not understand this film in 1996. I remember walking out of the theater thinking, I did not get what the hell was going on in this film. I really didn't get it between like Prague and like Phelps coming back to life, apparently. But I'm just wondering, did the plot make sense to you watching it straight through the first time?
No.
Okay.
Also, the plot doesn't make any sense to me still. This plot is nonsense.
It definitely is very odd. It makes more sense when you see the film on subsequent viewings, but it doesn't make total sense.
So, like I usually do when we record episodes, beforehand, I like to look up facts and trivia and details about the movie. I don't think I have ever been less surprised to read a fact about this movie that said this movie went into pre-production without a script.
There you go.
I read that and I thought, no shit. What they had when they went into pre-production was ideas of action set pieces. They wanted to do the thing with Tom Cruise dangling from the ceiling, which is probably the movie's most famous, memorable sequence.
Oh, yeah.
They wanted to do the fight on top of the train with the helicopter in the tunnel. They wanted to do this opening set piece in Prague, which apparently was a big deal because there weren't a lot of American movies that filmed in Prague back then. And so, hey, we're going to film in Prague and we'll really, capture the beauty of the city and everything. Tom Cruise wanted to do the thing with the aquarium blowing up. Like, there were ideas for stunts and action set pieces, but the plot really seems like it was an afterthought. And there's a lot to unpack there. I think one thing that's worth pointing out, in the TV show, Mission Impossible, Jim Phelps was a good guy. And he was also back for the 80s reboot of the TV show. I didn't know that that was a thing, but they brought it back for like 2 years or something in the 80s. And Jim Phelps was back, and the original actor. So the fact that they made him a villain in this movie pissed off fans of the TV show. And I get that. I understand why. If he was always a good guy and then you make him a bad guy, yeah, you're going to upset people. I think more than just the fact that they made him a villain is the fact that his motivation makes zero fucking sense. None at all. The explanation that he gives is from Kittredge's point of view. He's saying Kittredge was the mole. And then Hunt says, why would he do it? Phelps says, because there's no Cold War anymore. And for so long, we had a clear villain. And now America doesn't have a clear villain. So the president is making decisions like he runs the country and not checking in with us. And grr, that's frustrating. And we only get paid $60,000 a year and you have an unhappy marriage. I mean, first off, you're like, Jesus Christ, your wife is this gorgeous woman, 30 years younger than you. All right, fine. You could still be unhappy. But like, I'm sorry, that is not motivation to murder every single person on your team and be a traitor. Like, that is really thin. It's also not helped by the fact that he's talking about it as if this was Kittredge's motivation. I think Jon Voight, as an actor, could have more fun if he was doing the kind of classic Bond villain thing of, here's why I am doing this evil thing, you know, and not in a mustache twirling kind of cheesy way, but he could have had a good villain monologue. I think you could have done it in a way where Phelps, he's frustrated by what IMF has become and how these missions are going, and he accidentally made a bad deal with a bad guy or a bad woman, Max, and he didn't realize how bad it was going to go, and oh no, now he feels bad about it, and damn it, he didn't want everyone to get hurt or something. But it just feels like it's empty. His motivation is totally fucking empty.
I thought he was right there when he said they only make 60 grand a year. I go, you know what? That's such bullshit. These guys are always risking their lives and they're literally doing impossible missions and they should be getting a very comfortable salary, 6 figures at least.
Right.
But he didn't say, and Max is paying me $20 million. It's as simple as that. Max is kind of a cool character in that it's this vague terrorist. And I like the reveal that it's this British woman instead of, who you think is going to be the Eastern European arms dealer. I almost thought that there was going to be Max's part of some other secret-y shadow organization that we'll get to in another film. But it doesn't go there either.
They also don't give you Claire's motivation. Claire, Jim's wife, is in on it too. She's working with her husband. There were some hints about that because she never really seems particularly sad that her husband was killed. Throughout most of the movie, she's fine with that. And okay, that makes sense because she knows that her husband isn't really dead. Although if she's lying about it, she should pretend to be a sad widow. But why is she working with him? No idea. Why does he betray her and shoot her at the end? No idea. I mean, he does say that he's got an unhappy marriage. Okay, but there's nothing to it. And there was supposed to be more of a love triangle with Claire and Jim Phelps and Ethan Hunt, that, maybe Hunt and Claire were having a secret affair. But all of those scenes were cut, so it's just kind of implied. There's the scene where she holds his hand, and it's like, maybe they sleep together after, maybe not. At the end, Phelps says to Hunt, well, I knew she would get to you once you've tasted the goods. Implying that they've slept together, which is so fucking creepy and shitty of a way to talk about a woman, let alone his wife. Fine, he doesn't like her. Fine, he's going to kill her. But why? What's going on there? There's so much that's left on the table that's just never explored. The Claire character is totally underdeveloped. She's underused. I don't know this actress, Emmanuelle Béart.
Yeah.
She might be great in other things. She and Tom Cruise have zero chemistry together. Tom Cruise has far more chemistry with Vanessa Redgrave, who plays Max. They have real tension and chemistry in their 2 or 3 scenes together. But let's talk about the break-in at Langley, because it is so iconic. It's the thing that everybody remembers from the movie. I'm guessing when I pick a picture from the movie to put for this episode, it'll be Tom Cruise dangling from the ceiling, horizontally above the floor. It's a very, very cool sequence that makes zero fucking sense.
Can I guess why it makes no sense? Why you think
Sure.
it makes no sense?
Go for it.
Why are they actually stealing the knock list?
Oh, that is a good point. That wasn't my point, but that is a good point.
Because they do it to get to Max, which is to get to Job, but I felt like they could just trick her, because their whole point is to steal this incredibly dangerous thing and to give it to Max, but give it to her so that she can't really use it.
Yes.
It just seems weird why they're actually giving Max the knock list. That's the thing that never really made sense to me.
That is 100% right. And they barely touch on that at all. The knock list is the MacGuffin. There's one line at the very beginning. Phelps says that if this list falls in the wrong hands, every undercover agent in Europe, or maybe just Eastern Europe, I forget, is going to be executed. And they realize, okay, yeah, this is serious. But those stakes are never mentioned again. And you would think that for Ethan Hunt, he would understand just how dangerous this is. These people on the list are presumably his friends and colleagues, people that he knows. Even if he doesn't know them, still a hell of a lot of other spies are going to be murdered. But these are people he would have a connection to. And Luther, when he finds out what they're stealing, he kind of raises an eyebrow a little bit of like, hey, that's what we're stealing? I was waiting for him to explode with anger, righteous anger of how dare you? You didn't tell me that's what we're stealing. No, this is unconscionable. And everyone's just like, yeah, okay, we'll take care of it. Everyone is very blasé about the stakes, which I found annoying. But getting back to the break-in at Langley, the real reason why it infuriated me is they don't have to do the dangling from the ceiling thing. They can assume anyone's identity. So put on a mask of that dude instead of making him, vomit. Put on his face, walk into the room, and steal the fucking knock list. The end.
Yes and no. They have a retinal scan. They purposely put the retinal scan in there, possibly for that reason.
But then put on the face of the assistant, the woman who works in that room. And then they'll have the real guy come in because, yeah, you need his retina or you need his voice too, and maybe they can't match that. And the real guy scans in, and then the secret agent, Claire, whoever, who's pretending to be the assistant, chloroforms him, walk in, get the thing, walk out. You don't need to do the dangling from the ceiling.
Or it's even as simple as, if you can do the dangle from the ceiling, wait till he comes in, shoot him with a tranquilizer dart. There obviously does not seem to be any cameras in this room.
Right.
You make a very good point about the low stakes is whenever you have to sneak into someone else. This franchise has said you could use the mask. I think they could have solved it in 10 seconds of dialogue by someone else suggesting they use the mask.
Sure.
And then they say, it won't work because Langley's too smart for that. Or even say, well, this technology came from Langley, so they already have the technology to go against it. But you're right. In a movie where it's all about faking identities, why not just fake this guy's identity?
Yeah, that's my point about the whole thing. It's just plot holes. It just opens up plot holes. Also, the other thing that bugs me about the Langley break-in is that the movie violates its own rules. When they're pulling him up and the rope is kind of scraping against the ceiling, that makes noise and you can't make noise. There's a decibel meter in there. Okay, sure, that rope would make noise, but also there's a pulley in the ceiling that clearly they had to drill into the ceiling for this pulley. Drilling into a ceiling would make noise. The whole thing with the sweat coming off of his face and then he just barely catches it, and then Luther sighs of phew. How the hell did Luther see that? They don't have any cameras in there. Also, did they not think about sweat? Because they show in the earlier scene when Hunt is talking about it, the visuals that we see for the audience, maybe Hunt doesn't know all of it, but you see the condensation from his cup, it hits the floor and the alarm goes off. So if they know that the floor is that sensitive and they're going to be dangling him down from the ceiling, of course you would think about sweat. I don't know what the solution is, but the body temperature thing, if it goes up a single degree, if someone else is in the room, well, he's in the room and he's sweating profusely, which makes sense. But then how are you working around it? They're not. Like, it just doesn't make logical sense within their own parameters.
I mean, it's incredibly simple. Put on a ski mask.
You could sweat through a ski mask.
I doubt that. I doubt that the ski mask is not going to absorb that sweat in the one part of your eye that's open. No, the ski mask is going to absorb that. You wear gloves, which he did. I think the pulleys, if I'm not mistaken, those were kind of fastened in there. I think those were, and you could easily say that the pulleys were designed to be silent pulleys for the most part. I want to ask you, do you have the exact same thing for the most test of time of this film?
Every single thing about the internet.
Yes.
It's laughably bad. He opens up the laptop and types in internet access. Like, come on.
There's a few things that are worse than that. One, whenever he sends an email, there's like a 1.5 second animation of like a letter folding. Oh my God, that would be so annoying if that happened. But then the other one is you have this mysterious international arms dealer. All we know is Max. And he searches Max.com.
Right. Yeah. And he emails Max at Job3:14, and the email goes through. Like, that's not an email address. It wasn't an email address back in 1996, by the way.
And he just basically sends Job3:14, like, that verse. Like, that's the password. Like,
yeah.
That's so easy. Like, he doesn't get to Job through 2 layers of something. Is Max assuming most people think it's Job 314? Actually, a lot of people would probably go first to Job 314.
Right. But James, let me ask you, what do you think about the movie Mission Impossible? I should be saying Mission: Impossible. Do you think it stands the test of time?
I like this film. I do. I like it for what it is. I like it for a fun summer action film. It's got a great score. I love the final train sequence. Red light, green light, when he jumps off the helicopter. And I wish they did a Mythbusters about just that scene, because does that work? I mean, it's a scene where Tom Cruise jumps off the helicopter, the explosion sends him into the helicopter completely unscathed. I don't know. It worked in the movie. It seems like it'll work.
No, I'm just declaring no.
But, you know, it's very, very cool. I love the helicopter in the tunnel. I love that train sequence. I love the Langley scene. I think the Prague scene is cool. It's really just missing a good script. It doesn't quite make sense. And there's a lot of elements of a great franchise here. The theme song's already there. Ethan Hunt is great. They established the masks and all this stuff. And I think they're going to get it better in other films, and they do. So for me, Mission Impossible 1 or Mission: Impossible doesn't stand the test of time. But it's not a bad film, folks. It's got some great sequences, and you wouldn't have a bad time watching it. What do you think, Al? Does this stand the test of time?
I don't think so. I think this movie is pretty frustrating in its plot. And I get it that the action set pieces are cool. Yeah, the big fight scene on top of the train with the helicopter and everything. Yeah, that's cool. It looks cool. I get it. But it just doesn't make any sense. And like, I have a hard time caring about these two men kicking each other on top of a train when I don't understand really why they're kicking each other on top of a train. Like, I get it, they're enemies, but why? Like, a spy movie can be complicated, that's fine, but it should make sense. And this movie does not make sense. I think that it is a shame. I wanted to like it more. I think Tom Cruise is a good actor. I think he's capable of more. I think the success of this movie kind of showed Tom Cruise that he doesn't need to be capable of more, and he can do less acting and more stunts, which to me is a bummer. I'm sure I liked this movie more when I saw it that day after driving really fast with Aaron in 1996 than I do now, but I was frustrated and annoyed. And I do not think this movie stands the test of time.
And it's a shame because with a good script doctor, I think it really could have stood the test of time.
It's easy for me to imagine this movie coming out and the entire world saying, meh, We like James Bond better. And like, that's not what happened. And obviously people love this movie and they love seeing Tom Cruise as Ethan Hunt, and the franchise is going strong 29 years later. But it's easy for me to imagine this movie just kind of landing with a thud. All right, but one thing I want to say before we wrap up today, we got a comment on Instagram. It was a comment from our episode about The Matrix. It was from this woman, Alice V., who was writing to us from Estonia. She was talking about that episode from many years ago, and she also mentioned that she had commented on our website, testoftimepod.com, and the comments weren't showing up. I went back to the website and I found 5 of her comments, and I replied to them and I apologized online, but I do just want to say it on the podcast. Alice, I'm so sorry that your comments were caught by our spam catcher. I think I got all of them. I counted 5. We have been doing this podcast for 9 years, or almost 9 years, and I think these are the first comments we've ever gotten on the website. Nobody leaves comments on the website. You can, it's a WordPress site. We hear from people on social media, but I just wanted to thank Alice writing in from Estonia, leaving those comments on the website. I took them out of the spam catcher. Alice, you can keep sending us comments there or Instagram or wherever else. I will try to do better and look through the comments with a keener eye. I mean, truly 99.9999999% of all of our comments are spam. So that's how they got lost. But Alice, listening from Estonia, thank you. Thank you for listening. Thank you for commenting. You genuinely brought a huge smile on my face reading all of your comments. So thank you for that. But we want more of our listeners to reach out to us. We are at Test of Time Pod on Facebook, X, Instagram, and Threads. And you can comment on testoftimepod.com. Because next week we are going to be talking about Mission Impossible 2. We want to hear your thoughts on that movie, on this franchise, on Tom Cruise, on Ethan Hunt, on IMF. Did you watch the show? Did you watch the movies? Let us know, write in, and we'll talk to you next week, everybody.
Bye, everyone, and this podcast will self-destruct in 5, 4, 3,